pretty much any engine. Let's go here and take a look. So going in here to the mode under power management, we're going to turn this feature on. We'll say yes to going enabling all the default tables. Now in here, we're going to find the speed source. This is where we want to go and initiate what the speed is going to be when the tables here are going to be calculated. And I'll talk about this in a minute. We usually choose our driving speed, but you can choose any of your options in here. I'll just keep it on driving speed. We're actually not going to use that, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. Open loop power reduction, we are going to turn this on, and this is actually what we're going to use to set up all of our control here for this vehicle. So we want to go in here, click on our tables. I actually have to unlock it, double click, unlock that. We'll do that to all these tables here, and we'll talk about how this actually works. And we have our speed target table. Let's go ahead and lock those down. Let's store this. Coming down here a little bit further, max gear lockout. So this is going to say the highest gear we can go to would be 6th gear. We can actually go in here and just zero this out. That'll go and turn off the max gear option. So we don't need that for what we're doing here. We're going to be using these open loop tables. And again, it'll make a little bit more sense here as we go along. The max speed lockout, we'll keep it at 0 mile per hour. So when we want this to activate, we'll build that into the conditions in our axes here. Again, to make more sense as we go along here. Disable input, this will actually be able to turn on or off the power management feature. Now, because this is a drag car, I want this active all the time. You could go in and set up a toggle switch to essentially turn off your traction control. This is acting as a traction control. It's giving you a little bit more flexibility again in terms of that cut, in terms of the power management compared to the normal old school traction control that we have here under that tab. A cut mode, we do have our options here, ignition and fuel. I'm going to do ignition cut here. Now, let's go and talk about how this actually works in the normal way that Link has intended it. Normally, we're not going to have our open loop power reduction on, we'll have that off. And what this is going to do is take a look here at the runtime axes speed target. And this is going to be what the speed, the maximum speed we're going to allow to have happen at a certain amount of time. And this is going to be a race timer. 0 seconds is when we launch the car, and it can go all the way here to 15 seconds. We can go in here and change this. In fact, we can make this a 3-dimensional table if we want to. And we're not going to use the race timer for this. I'm going to base everything on my driven or my ground speed, my front wheel speed sensors for this particular vehicle in terms of how I want that cut to initiate. So we'll look at that here in a minute. But normally we would go and have a timer here. You'd figure out what the maximum speed is going to be coming into the table. That would be your speed source here. That's going to be your speed target here versus time. Anything above that means you're getting wheel spin. Anything below that means that you're still accelerating. And then what's going to happen here, it's going to take a look at your speed air cut percent. This is your ignition cut table. This is your speed air ignition trim. This is your ignition retard table. And we're going to take a look here at our power management speed target air. And what we're going to find here, if we're seeing the values in here, we're able to put, this is a race timer, so as the timer goes on here, we're able to go in here, and if we're generating a negative speed target, if I recall correctly, that means that we're getting actual wheel spin, so we're overstepping our value here. I could double check that. I ran it on the simulator, and I can't remember if it's a positive value or a negative value. I'm not using it, so I wasn't really worried about it, but in this case, if we're generating a error here, a target error, we're able to put a cut, and you can just keep your axes if you don't want to change this. Let's just say 2 seconds in or 3 seconds into the run, you want to go make sure if you're overstepping, let's say positive is actually getting wheel spin, so you're over exceeding at this time, at this speed, this is going to be the cut you want to put in here. If you're having a pretty large 30 mile per hour overstep, that's pretty large, you want to probably have something like a 90% cut. But down here at 0, you would have 0, and in between these two, you could vertically interpolate. So you would start to cut as you're starting to overstep your mile per hour threshold at a given time. This is going to work fairly well for most vehicles, but what I'm going to do here is be a little bit more specific for my vehicle here. I don't want to use a race timer because I've had mixed results with race timers. I can initiate that if I want it to, but I'm going to just not use the race timer, and I'm going to do something a little bit different here for this car. So I'm not going to actually use my speed air cut table, my speed air ignition trim table, or my speed target table. I'm going to be using here open loop power reduction. We turn these on. What this is going to do is allow us to build the table out and specify whatever runtime values we want in the table and specify the percentage of cut based on the conditions that we're setting here for both the cut ignition 0 to 100, and then here ignition retarding as much as you want. A negative number in here is going to be retarding, and that's going to retard from whatever the commanded spark timing is. So let's say the table is commanding 25 degrees. If we have negative 25 in here, that'll pull out 25 degrees, so the ignition timing we're going to send to the engine would be 0 degrees. Let's go and take a look at how we're going to configure this. The default axes here is going to be based on race time versus this power management speed target error, again, overstepping what we find in the table here. We can get rid of this. We can actually redo this here. Let's click X. We're not going to have anything hinging upon our speed target table. What we're going to do here in our X axes, we're going to change this. I'm going to change this to my driven speed. I'm going to be doing this off of my wheel speed sensors that are going to be in the front. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.